Am I an expat or am I an immigrant? This is the question that I'm going to be deep diving into in today's podcast episode. It's something that I have thought about on and off over the course of the 6 years that I have lived in Italy. And it's also something that has been asked of me, actually, over on my YouTube channel when I've posted different videos sharing my experiences here. And so I thought it would be a really interesting question to answer because I do believe both words are misused to a certain extent and their true definitions are blurred a little. And so let's get into answering this very loaded question, shall we? Am I an expat or am I an immigrant? As I've said, I think both words are heavily loaded. They both come with a particular set of perceptions and associations that mean that often we try to box people into one of these categories without realizing just how similar on paper they actually are. Now, if I'm going to be very technical and I'm going to give you the dictionary definition from the Cambridge English Dictionary of both expat and immigrant, this is what the dictionary says. So, expatriate, or expat for short, is someone who does not live in their own country. This is the dictionary definition of an expat. Immigrant, on the other hand, is a person who has come to a different country in order to live there permanently. So, again, dictionary definition of immigrant. So, if we're going to look at face value at both of those definitions, we can see how one person can actually fit into both categories. And this is essentially how I feel because when I first moved to Italy in 2018, I think I made the natural association that I was an expat. It was just something that I'd read about in kind of news reports and social media referred to expats, and any kind of Facebook group on the internet referred to themselves as an expat group. And so I naturally associated myself with that label. And, when I started my YouTube channel in 2021, my content was, life as an expat in South Italy. I was sharing my cultural experiences, my kind of initial perceptions of Italy as a country. And I was putting myself very much under the umbrella of an expat. And it was then that people started questioning that, and they would comment and say, but why do you refer to yourself as an expat? You're actually an immigrant. And I remember my answer then, and it's still the very same answer I would give today. I'm actually both. Because if you look at those dictionary definitions, I am an expat because I'm someone who does not live in my own country. I am from the UK and I live in Italy. I am also an immigrant because I'm somebody who has decided to move to another country permanently. And I now have permanent residence here in Italy. So I'm very much within the both categories when you look at it on paper. And also, just through my own experiences, I can very much feel that I'm sat somewhere in the middle because whenever you have to deal with any kind of bureaucratic matter here in Italy, you don't go to the expat office. No, you go to the Office for Stranieri. And Stranieri, with a bare bones translation, essentially means foreigners, outsiders, strangers. So you're very quickly brought back to earth and humbled by the fact that Italy does not view you as part of their country. You have a degree of separation, shall we say. And, if you have to deal with more complex things, the Questura also deals with immigration matters. So there you are. You understand that you are sat somewhere very much in between these two categories. And so I think it's interesting. I think the reason people get so hung up about whether you should be either an expat or an immigrant is because of the loaded connotations that come with both of those terms. So expats are often thought of as having privilege. They often are thought to be financially independent, to have freedom of movement, freedom of choice, and also to have the possibility to seek out opportunities and create new lives for themselves without any kind of real necessity, just because they have a desire. That is the label that is often associated with the term expat, a degree of privilege. And I would say that, yes, I agree that there is a lot of privilege associated with the term expat. And I never forget how lucky and fortunate I am to have been able to make the choice to move to another country and not be forced to have done so. And also to have been able to find work in another country and essentially build a life here. So, for this reason, I can understand why people have this kind of association with expat. When it comes to immigrant, on the other hand, well, the term immigrant is often associated with a negative connotation, like illegal immigrants, for example. And so people view immigrant as being a word associated with struggle, with suffering, with desperation, with the need to improve someone's life and circumstances and really support themselves as a person or as a family. There's that kind of association with immigrant, which is worlds apart from the associations that people hold with the word expat. And so you can understand why sometimes perhaps people prefer to view themselves as an expat because it's that level of superiority that they feel inwardly towards themselves compared to actually the humble truth of being an immigrant. But as you see from the dictionary definition, there is nothing in the dictionary definition of immigrant that says that there is suffering or says there is any kind of desperation or need for survival or any kind of negative tone. It's what we have placed upon it outside of the dictionary definition that has given this term this meaning. And this is where, like, I even see the media misusing these words as well. Like, some academics believe that expats are essentially, and what the difference is between the two is essentially expats are people who move to another country, but not on a permanent basis, maybe for a fixed period of time, maybe for employment reasons, something like this. But people who retire to Italy often refer to themselves as expats. Now, these people are not working here. These people are here to spend the rest of their lives here. And so they technically don't fit into that kind of short-term vision that academics believe expat means. And, I think this is where it can be difficult. This is where the lines can be blurred. And this is where I think, it's very dangerous in a way to kind of box people into one of these categories. If I'm honest, I am saying this from a place of privilege for sure, because as I said before, my choice to move here was my own. It wasn't out of need or necessity. And I truly believe that people's lives are not black and white. You often have this grey area in the middle where people can blend into different categories, situations, circumstances. And so I think it's really dangerous sometimes to try to force people into one box over the other. We love to box things up. We love to compartmentalize aspects of our life, but it's not always possible to do that. Like, if we take the term immigrant with its negative associations, I know plenty of people who I follow on social media, successful business people who are immigrants in their country and essentially have built hugely successful businesses. And yes, normally their family moved to that country in order to improve the prospects of themselves, but they built something amazing on the back of it. And so they have completely turned around the kind of negative association that people hold with that word. And I do find it interesting. I do find it interesting how people hold on to labels. I do find it interesting that the media will never say there are illegal expats, but they will say illegal immigrants. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, we love to apply labels to things. We love to do this, whether we want to admit it or not. But I think we have to be really careful because words can lose their true meaning, and we can devalue a person's situation and life experiences by trying to push them into one box over the other. So I think the next time somebody tells you they're an expat, before you want to tell them, no, actually you're an immigrant, I think it would be good to just remember this. Someone can be both. I'm talking to you as a person who is both an expat and an immigrant. I sit in the middle between the two of them, and I humbly know my position, but I also recognize the privilege that I have to be here. And I think when you can sit in that space, I think that you really do appreciate the decision you've made to move to another country. I will see you in the next episode.